Beast Wars Season 2, Episode 10, Transmutate. Now, I gotta say right off the top, coming off of the Dinobot episode, this one was a really painful episode to watch. Like, if you've been kind of keeping up with my reviews of this series, I've mentioned maybe 2 or 3 times, like, there's one episode that I really remember. I remember, like, bits and pieces, but there's one episode that I know focuses on a specific topic that I was kind of waiting, to see when it showed up. And this was that episode. This was the one that this is the episode that I'd seen more recently than any of the other episodes in the series. It was on like G4. They used to have this morning thing where they would show like random episodes of Transformers and G.I. Joe. Sometimes it would be G1 Transformers, sometimes it would be Beast Wars Transformers, sometimes it would be old G.I. Joe, sometimes newer G.I. Joe. And this was one of those episodes that I saw on that little morning, I think it's called like the morning action block or whatever. And that had to have been about 7 years ago or something like that, almost 8 years ago. And it stuck with me ever since. Like, ever since I saw that episode, it stuck with me. And watching it again, it was really, really sad. Like, even when it started, once I knew that it was the episode, it just made me really sad. And I was like, I just know how this plays out, and it was just such a sad episode. But I'll get through it, and then we'll, talk about all the emotions and stuff that I had at the end of the episode. But basically, it starts off, once again, we have a stasis pod that gets revealed to everyone. So the Predacons go to it, Maximals go to it. Sort of simple start, simple premise. And then things change a little bit. So we have Silverbolt, Rat Trap, and Cheetor for the Maximals, and then we have Inferno and Rampage for the Predacons. And they get to this stasis pod, and it's actually emitting a ton of energy. Like, it has like very powerful shockwaves pretty much coming off of it. And the stasis pod the computer is kind of rambling off like, the data tracks are damaged, it's ruined, it can't really scan for anything. Like, everything that pretty much could be wrong was wrong with this stasis pod, but it still created a form for the transformer that was within it. And after it sends up like this big shockwave, it kind of knocks everyone out except for Rampage. Like, he's the first one to get back up. And he realizes that this protoform is similar to him. It's kind of altered, it's really messed up, and it's damaged. And so he's kind of talking to it as it's inside the stasis pod. He's like, you're similar to me. Like, I know you're strong. I want you to, fight your way out of it. Like, you can get out of this pod, so break free. And eventually it does. It breaks out, and it is transmutated, is basically the name it's given. And it's very powerful, but it's, very childlike. Like, it doesn't speak like everyone else does. They even have Optimus mention, like, it basically has the intelligence of a drone. So it's this very childlike transformer, but it's insanely powerful. And so Rampage, with it being a lot like him, he has this really serious connection to it where he wants it to join, the Predacons. And it's like, we can team up together, and, we can kind of do our own thing. Like, we'll team up and, we'll work for Megatron for now, but then we'll break free, and we can do whatever we want, and it'll be you and me. And then on the Maximal side of things, it's Silverbolt that kind of makes the connection, because Silverbolt is like, when Transmutate first comes out, Rat Trap is the first one to say something. And he's like, I'm telling you, the things coming out of these stasis pods just keep getting weirder and weirder. And Silverbolt is like, we shouldn't judge it for the way it looks. Like, we should be accepting, because we're the Maximals. Like, we should just accept everything and not kind of pass it off simply because it's different. And so Silverbolt for the Maximals, Rampage for the Predacons, they each have this very serious connection to Transmutate. And for Rampage, I think it's even more personal because of the connection of them both being a bit different. They aren't simply, Maximal or Predacon. They are these sort of in-between creatures that are just kind of stuck. Rampage is kind of just stuck with the Predacons because Megatron has his spark in basically the little vice grip, pretty much. And Transmutate is kind of just stuck in the middle. He can't transform. And that was one of the big things. The Predacons actually get Transmutate first. And so Megatron has like this little hologram thing come up where like his head is just floating in space pretty much because of little holograms. And so he's talking with Rampage and Inferno, and it's like, alright, if you want to fight so hard, because Rampage, is like, don't destroy it, give it a chance to, do something to prove itself, because of course he didn't want to destroy it. Megatron's like, alright, if you're going to fight this hard for it, then have it bring me the heads of the Maximals and it can stay on the team. So, Rampage is trying to get it to work with the Maximals so that they can at least be on the same side. And then things kind of get crazy when Silverbolt comes into play and he tries to save Transmutate because, of course, the Predacons are the bad guys. And so he comes in and they have this battle, and Transmutate realizes who its friends are, and it's pretty much Rampage and Silverbolt, and it kind of hates violence no matter what. So when Rampage was about to get messed up, this is like before even Silverbolt comes in, Rampage is about to get beat up, or he gets beat up like a little bit. Inferno shoots him because he's like, oh, this thing is useless, so let's get rid of it. Or this is after Silverbolt shows up because he was supposed to kill him but he wouldn't. So Inferno got mad and he's like, oh, this thing is useless. And so Rampage was about to shoot Inferno, but Inferno got him first. And then, because that happened, Transmutate was mad and he, sent Inferno, flying. He hit him with basically, this sonic screech is pretty much its ability. And it sent Inferno flying. And so, after that happens, Optimus comes in to take out Rampage. And then, after Rampage gets damaged, Transmutate is about to attack Optimus because its two friends were attacked. But Silverbolt stops it and is like, we're your friends, you don't have to do this. And so they take Transmutate, and that's when they do the experiments, and Optimus says it is insanely powerful, but it basically has the intelligence of a drone. So instead of destroying it, like the Predacons would do, Optimus says, basically we should put it in stasis lock. And that makes Silverbolt really angry. He's like, are we Predacons? Like, this isn't what we should do. We should, find a way basically to accept it. That's pretty much what he's trying to do the whole episode. And so during this time, Transmutate is walking around the ship, and Rampage calls out to it, and he's like, follow my voice, like we have this connection. It was a weird psychic thing. It was something that they've never had in the show, but it was like, like we have this connection, like follow my voice. And so Transmutate leaves the ship because Transmutate could actually fly. Like Optimus wanted Transmutate to give Silverbolt over, and it's like, I'll fly him to the base. And then Transmutate was just like, fly, and this little tiny, it looked like a gem that allowed Transmutate to fly, and it just kind of popped out his back, or her back. It was a genderless transformer. That's why I tried to just say it instead of him or her. But it popped out of Transmutate's back and just flew off. They just flew off. So it was really simple. Transmutate flies out of the ship and goes to Rampage. And Silverbolt catches up with them both. And that's when they have kind of this final battle. And Silverbolt at first wins. He knocks Rampage off of this cliff. But Rampage grabs one of his wings as he's falling. So they fall down this cliff. And they both land on opposite sides. And they're both a bit damaged. They aren't standing. And Rampage decides he's going to finish off Silverbolt. And it's like, basically I want Transmutate, we're connected, we're kind of the same. So he shoots 3 rockets, and then Silverbolt shoots his, wing rockets. I never really know what to call those things. But he shoots them, and during this scene, Transmutate is still at the top of the cliff and realizes, both my friends are hurt. So Transmutate drops down this cliff and creates this sort of force field basically. But the power of these missiles, the force field, it's not even just a normal force field, it just blocks stuff. It was it was physically stopping the missiles in place on both sides. But unfortunately that ended up being too much for Transmutate, and it destroyed Transmutate. The missiles just blew up, and Transmutate didn't have enough power to actually stop the missiles and save itself. So Transmutate actually gets destroyed at the end of this episode, and it's a heartbreaking scene. The whole thing with Dinobot, and maybe it's because I kind of knew it was coming. Some of the things that I'd seen was okay, I kind of know this is happening. Plus, there are a ton of pictures in here, so I kind of know, even beforehand, I kind of know how things are going to end up playing out and how they're going to play out even after, Dinobot's death and stuff. So maybe it's because I kind of knew what was going to happen, and because I remember a little bit about the series, and going into Beast Machines, who is there and who isn't there. It was kind of like I'm almost prepared a little bit for every character's death that I can't remember. So maybe that's why it didn't affect me as much as it normally would have. But his death was also at least bittersweet. It was like, I mentioned in the last review, at least his death was useful, and like he saved humankind, and he also, with the stick and the stone, he basically gave, the concept of the hatchet to mankind, and gave, that huge leap in evolution for mankind as far as defending itself and fighting and stuff. So at least there was a part of that where it was bittersweet. It was like, it's sad to see Dinobot go, but there's something there, like what he did in that episode was good, and it kind of makes you feel good. And this was just hurt. It was just painful because this character is really like that of a child, and maybe that's why it upsets me so much, because it's basically like a child in this episode that's just very powerful, and it dies at the end. And even, like I said, this is the episode that I remember. So even when it started, I was really sad to begin with, because I'm like, I just, like, once I saw that it was Transmutate, I was just sad. I was like, I know how this ends. And I was sad. Like, the whole episode, I was just sad. Like, it's a normal episode at the start, and then it's just sad. Like, I was just sad the whole time, and then I actually got to the ending scene, and I had to stop the episode because I was crying so much. Like, it really made me upset. And it's such a good episode. This is like one of those episodes that's like where it could easily, like, it's one of the most mature episodes they have in the series, and it's for a kids show, and it's just like, man, this is like some real life stuff. Like, it really was. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I see it as like the life of a child, and that's how I kind of look at it, because it's truly just an innocent person. I guess that's why I compare it to a child. And it's just a transformer that doesn't, the data tracks are messed up, so it doesn't remember anything. It can't really transform. It just has this one form, and it's insanely powerful, and it doesn't really know how to use its power because it's not developed enough, plain and simple. And it was just such a sad ending, and it was just, Silverbolt and Rampage had this moment, at the end after Transmutate is gone, where Optimus and Cheetor show up, and they get Silverbolt, and he's like, we never really even got to see what it could do. Its spark was lost before we could even see what it had. And Optimus is like, you get back to base and heal yourself. We'll deal with Rampage. And Silverbolt says, like, just basically leave him alone, because for right now we're brothers, because they were both really hurt by what they did. Them trying to pull Transmutate to one side or the other is ultimately what led to Transmutate's destruction. And Rampage was really messed up, because it's like, this was the only Transformer on this entire planet that has any sort of connection to me as something powerful, but distorted and stuff. So it was a great way to end it. And it was very sad, because Transmutate, after the explosion, is kind of looking at both Rampage and Silverbolt. And I think it's even before the explosion, it looks at both. And it looks at Rampage and it says friend, dark. And then it looks at Silverbolt and it says friend, light. So it knows, the difference between, light and dark. And, as it dies, it just says, I am hurt. And then it closes its eyes and it dies. And it was such a sad ending. And it was just like, man, this is an incredibly powerful episode. And it really, like I said, it made me, like, I really had to stop the episode because I was so upset at the end. And, like I said, it stuck with me, so I was sad even when I found out. Like, once it started, I was just sad the whole way through. And getting to the ending moment again, and going through that, it was just like, wow, like, it's so much more powerful now than even before, because I was sad before, and it was like I said, maybe 8 years ago, so I guess it was like just as I was starting high school, or it might have been even before that when I actually saw this episode. So, it still made me sad, but it I don't know, I guess I just understand it more now, and it just made it a lot worse, like seeing, and it wasn't exactly manipulation, it was just kind of that drive to pull someone to your side. It wasn't exactly that they were trying to manipulate it. Rampage really just wanted Transmutate as a friend because they were similar, and Silverbolt, was kind of the one who was, even within the Maximals, was the one who was the most accepting of Transmutate despite its appearance and even its danger with, having such a low intellectual ability with all that, incredible power. So, they each had their reasons for trying to get Transmutate to their side, but it was just such a sad ending and such a crazy way to show like innocence lost in this series. And it was a great episode. It was just very, very sad. It was very painful. And like I said, with Dinobot's thing, even aside from knowing it, it's like at least it was a bittersweet ending, and it had some happy element to it. As sad as it was, it had an element of greatness in what he did to save, the entire human race, pretty much, from all of, the Predacons. And then this is just a struggle between an Autobot, or between a Predacon and a Maximal, and this lost, Transformer in the middle, and it just ultimately doesn't survive kind of the crazy war that they're having with each other. It wasn't even just about Transmutate at that point, because Rampage was just like, alright, well, there's a Maximal, gotta destroy it, and that's pretty much how it ended. It ultimately came down to their war more than it was about Transmutate. So it was just a very sad episode, but a very powerful one. I think it's one that I think everyone should see this episode. I think it's a phenomenal episode, and like I said, it's just one of those ones where even if you don't know the show, this, like with Dinobot, that I think is kind of the build up of 2 seasons, and then this episode is seriously just one episode of a brand new character that lives and dies all in this one moment. And it's just really good. It's just very powerful, and it's easy to connect to something in real life where, like I said, for me, it's just, I just see it as like a kid. That was the easiest comparison for me. And it was just really sad, but it was a really great episode. Had me crying like crazy, even more than the Dinobot thing. I had my tear going with Dinobot, but this just was like, man, I was just crying. I had to pause the episode because it was just messing me up a little. But really enjoyed it. It was definitely a good episode, a very powerful one for sure. A great example of mature content in kids series. Even back in the day, it just shows like that type of stuff. It happens way more often now where it's more mature stuff, but this definitely showed it. We still had it, back then as well. It wasn't just Batman, that had the mature content. Beast Wars was in there too, and they did some really serious stuff every once in a while. And of course, I don't know what made them do this. To be like, hey, let's throw in this sad episode where we kill off a favorite character, and then let's do this episode where we introduce and kill a character, and make it just as powerful all in one episode. I don't know what monster thought to put these 2 episodes one after another, but that's insane. That's like just heartbreaking, and I don't know how much that would really affect really young kids. Like, I don't remember how I felt when I first saw these 2 episodes, but man, back to back is like, that's devastating. Like, that is freaking that is a devastating combination of episodes where you lose a character that you've known for 2 full seasons, and then somehow they make you feel almost really the exact same way about a brand new character that doesn't even really speak that much, and it can't really speak that much. So it's insane that they chose to put those 2 episodes together, but they are 2 great episodes to show how serious and emotional this show can really be. But a phenomenal episode. Like, it was just, it's one of the greatest ones just because of the emotional impact that it has. Like, the other episodes have emotional impact as well, but like I said, for me, I think this one can connect to anyone who watches the show. It doesn't have to be like Dinobot's thing where you have to like the character and stuff. This is just, you see this innocent creature, and you can easily connect it to just any innocent person or any innocent child or something like that. And the struggle you have of these 2 sides within this war, and simply their connection to this creature, where everyone else around them says, lock it away or flat out destroy it. You have Silverbolt and Rampage just in this sort of unified experience, and ultimately that's what causes them to share the same pain, at the end of the episode. Rampage I'd say even more so than Silverbolt because of the actual connection of being sort of not exactly a failed experiment, at least not Transmutate, but just being altered and being very different than everyone else. So, very great episode. Of course, if you guys have any comments on it or any comments about Transformers in general, please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.